If you were in a situation where you needed self-defense, would you be prepared? Welcome to Yoga with Serena podcast. Today we're going to learn a little bit more about how to be prepared with self-defense and how to recover and find resources and help if you need it. Thank you for listening to Yoga with Serena podcast. We're with Anna Hall today, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome, Anna, to my podcast. I'm excited. Thanks so much. We can kind of start with introductions of how we know each other and how we came together to create our Monday nights yoga / self-defense classes, which were awesome. But we know each other from church, and I'll let you kind of introduce yourself if you'd like to, and then we'll talk about more things.
Okay, I'm Anna, and I have 6 kids, and I'm married to, we're not exactly high school students. We met like 3 months after high school, but we knew of each other. And so we've been married about, I think we're going on 18 years.
Yes, you guys are awesome, and you have 6 kids now, and so you teach self-defense. And can you tell us about how you came to have a love for self-defense?
Sure. So my husband was previously military, and we were stationed in a cow town, and I just had a baby. I was really nervous about all this talk about the cartel activity there, and just after baby paranoia. So I signed up for a self-defense class, and it happened to be jiu-jitsu, and then I went from there, and I loved the workout more so than fighting, but then I learned to love the fighting later on. So that's how I found out. It was about 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's good. So it was just kind of for health, exercise at first.
Yeah. Well, and then
sort of safety.
Yeah, to feel a little bit, false security, but still. Yeah,
I love that. And then we go to church together, so we came together through way of friends and things to have our yoga / self-defense. First it was kind of just yoga, and I was teaching, and she has a nice little studio at her house, and then I knew that she taught self-defense. I was like, hey, can you do some self-defense too on those nights? And because self-defense is something that I'm passionate about because of my childhood experiences, where I was sexually assaulted. And so I was like, I just had this interest in it, and so she was like, sure. And so she started teaching that too, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. I wish I knew more of this before. It could have maybe prevented some things and just helped me feel more confident, and I just love that there were certain concepts that you were talking about that even without doing the moves and all of the exercising and all of that, just having the concept and the knowledge was oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And it was kind of neat to just hear. And so I thought it would be really cool to kind of talk about that, because you don't have to necessarily practice, but I think that's a good idea. I think everyone should work that into their schedule if they have time. But if anything, to just kind of know those concepts you were talking about, I wanted to ask is there any way to prevent any situations where you would need self-defense?
So first things first, you need to be aware of your surroundings, and don't be naive to the fact that nothing bad's going to happen to you. And that's sadly, that's the world we live in. You kind of just have to look around, be aware, make eye contact whenever you can, and when you're walking, when you're by yourself, don't be on your phone distracted, because that's all a perpetrator really needs. It just needs you to be distracted and alone. So those are 2 things that are going to get you in trouble. So be in a public place, and still be aware. Your question was how to
like prevent the situation. So that's good. Like being aware, not being like on your phone, making eye contact with people. I thought that was interesting too. Like just because even that is just sending a signal to them, like I'm aware of you, you know. And then because as you were saying too, like they try to look for the easy target.
Yeah, people who don't look confident.
Yeah.
Or who look timid and scared. So even if you are feeling that way, don't look that way. You need to stand with your shoulders back and your back straight and look people in the eye. Don't be intimidating, of course, but just, hey, you're on my radar. I see you.
Yeah.
And keep your phone close by in your back pocket, whatever you need. Just be ready. Be ready for something to happen. I know that sounds like you need to like be anxious all the time.
Yeah.
But you actually won't be anxious if you're prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And then is there a certain demographic that's more susceptible to needing self-defense? Like female versus male, or like young or older? Like, do you think?
I can't answer for everybody, but I would definitely say females are the ones who are constantly looking over their shoulder, worried about things happening to them. And that might be a nature thing. We're just, we are loving, we're kind creatures, and that's just naturally kind of how we are, a little more trusting.
Yeah.
So women's self-defense should be a huge thing.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
It's at least know a few things.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Absolutely. So definitely women should take self-defense courses. Of course, men can too. How can someone find self-defense lessons?
Oh, sure. So like I said, I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is not striking. We don't kick and hit. It's a fight that gets to the ground. So you being trained in Jiu-Jitsu, you know what to do once you're on the ground. You don't want to be on the ground. That's not the best position to be in, but if you're there, you're going to know what to do. And Jiu-Jitsu, where to find it? So I go to Ralph Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Waco, and my professor is Chris Gonzalez. And this particular gym in our area is very family friendly. So if you want your family to get involved in self-defense, definitely go. My kids, out of the 6, 5 of my kids go, and I go. My husband doesn't go. He was a former wrestler, but he's put those days behind him. But he's super strong. I don't think he has to worry about looking over his shoulder. But
that's awesome. So is it kind of like a family lesson?
No, actually, we do have kids classes. We have beginners classes, and then Coach has the advanced classes for those who want a little more challenge.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
Is there any like online that you know of? Like you could probably find online classes?
Oh yeah, for sure. So Ralph Gracie University is actually where I got my material for the women's self-defense. They have what you call they call it the pink belt. There is no pink belt in Jiu-Jitsu, by the way. But when taking this course, it's called Women Empowered. Again, RalphGracieUniversity.com. They're all online courses. Okay. So Women Empowered is what it's called, and you can definitely get a lot of good things in your pocket from that online course. Yeah.
Okay. That's perfect. Yeah. So those are good options if anyone's interested. So we talked about why it's important to make eye contact with someone acting suspicious, and you mentioned facing like the perpetrator or whoever it is, as in like facing your fears. Remember you talking about that, like you gotta face them. That was like the first lesson or something. It was like you turn and face, like if they're coming up behind you or whatever. And I was like, oh, that's such a universal concept, like facing your fears. Face the person, like you were saying, be confident, even if you don't feel totally confident, act like you are. And so also another thing that I thought was interesting was when we were learning how if they're like threatening with like a weapon, like, oh, don't scream because I have a knife or whatever. And you were like, you don't trust that. You just still put up a fuss, you still scream, and we were practicing like yelling and screaming and making a big scene, which I thought, oh, that's a good thing to know, you know?
Absolutely.
So just making it difficult for the perpetrator. I thought that was like, oh, anyone can kind of learn that without having to take an actual class. What are the 3 most important takeaways in self-defense if you had to choose? What are your favorite takeaways?
In self-defense, like in actual fighting, or like things I carry with me day to day?
Either or.
Okay. So my bread and butter in jiu-jitsu is chokes. I'm always going for a good choke. And so I rarely get anything else because it's power. And usually I'm going against bigger, stronger, sweatier men.
Yeah.
So I will never be able to strong arm them, ever.
Yeah.
So I go for a choke because the neck is so much easier to get to than this amazingly strong bicep or even a quad muscle. Like the neck, there's really not a lot of muscle I have to fight with.
That's
so
true.
I just go straight for it, and that's airway, that's blood flow. So I can get someone pretty easy because my skinny little arms can fit in that thick area, and I just choke away. So that's what I go for. That's my favorite.
That's true. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, so number 1, go for the choke.
Yeah, go. Okay. For me, go for the choke. Other women, maybe an arm bar if they can strong arm the guy's arm or whatever. But anyway, number 2, my favorite is learning assertiveness. I remember a time before Jitsu, I was at the grocery store, and there was this man behind me in line who kept scooting close to me and closer and closer, and then I didn't ever say anything. Yeah. But I did put my shopping cart, wedged it between us, like in a weird way. But why didn't I say something? Why didn't I just say, "You're making me uncomfortable, back up," or something like that? Now, I will look the person in the eye, and I'll be like, I'll be extra friendly. How's it going? And stuff like that. Great, you know. And if that conversation says, yeah, because I have a bubble. No one can get in my bubble. And so I either scoot back or I tell them, could you back up just a little bit? Or, you know, in a kind way. And right then and there, you can tell if they're a good guy, bad guy, because they won't back up and they won't listen. But if they're just friendly and they don't understand spatial stuff, they'll be like, oh, I'm sorry, I'll back up or whatever. And so that kind of gives you this is a tricky person. This is a person who just doesn't understand personal space, you know. So sometimes people need that boundary, and if they cross that boundary on purpose because you have found out by talking with them, or you say, can you please step out of my step back a little bit, and they don't, then you know you got a problem. So that's number 2, just being able to gauge people better, and it's helped me. Number 3, I think loving my brothers and sisters a little better. I don't know how to describe this, but I'll try my best. It's a little easier for me now to talk to people when I know that I can take them. Is that awful? I can take you. So let's just talk now. I know how to get away from a situation. We can talk, but you know, it's going to be within my parameters. The boundaries that I set. You know, like there's a bit of social. I guess I have a little bit of social anxiety, so this has helped out a lot. Being able to be like, okay, cool, I measured this person up. I can take you. It's fine. We can talk now.
No, I can see that too. Like even for myself, that feeling of like fear, and it comes into social anxiety and all sorts of things. But the confidence is kind of like what you're talking about too. Like just having the confidence and the assertiveness, and then you're like confident you're going to know what to do. Like you're not going to be caught off guard. There's no reason to be afraid. Like if you know that you can take them and like you know you're going to be safe, then the fear can kind of like go.
And you can just talk to them.
Yeah.
People to people, not,
Right.
you know, this person's not going to hurt me or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. It ends with the love. You're able to just love people more because the fear is gone.
Yeah. You're prepared in case something does happen. So,
Yeah.
That takes away a lot of fear, preparation.
Yeah. I love that. So, I just wanted to also talk about like support groups, help hotlines, and resources to people who maybe have gone through something or currently are, or maybe they will in the future. So hopefully, we can prevent things from happening, but of course things do happen. And so I found a few things like the National Sexual Assault Hotline, 1-800-656-4673. So that's a number I found that you can call if you need. And then also RAINN.org, RAINN.org, has a list of many different types of helps and resources. And then also just tell your trusted physician, friend, mentor, parent, someone that you can talk to. Telling someone is important. Talking about it is important. If something does happen, or if you're afraid of something happening, and then the crisis text line also is available. You can reach a crisis counselor by texting HOME, HOME, to 741-741. And of course, there's probably more resources. If you can Google, you'll probably find a lot. But I really love what you do, Anna, and that you were able to teach us. And I love what I learned, and I want to continue learning. And I think the hard part is like carving out the time, because we're so busy in our lives today, and it's go, go, go. And how do we fit more things into our schedule? So would you have any like suggestions for someone who's like, how do I have time to do self-defense?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'll answer that, but I'd like to go back. If you are in a situation where you're being physically, emotionally, or whatever abused, there are family abuse centers in Waco. If you type it in Google and you secretly need to find something, go get in contact with him and get out of your situation. And okay, back to your question. Let's see here. What was it again? Exactly. Sorry.
So if they don't have time, because today's time. So busy. There's so many things that we like need to do or we expect ourselves to do. So if we're like, oh, it'd be nice to do self-defense, but how am I going to fit that into my schedule?
Right. Definitely. Everybody has an ebb and a flow in life. So if you plan ahead if you can plan an ebb and go online, the Gracie University, their course is only 6 weeks long, and you get a pocket full of gems on, not only like why I should do this program, but like if I'm in a situation where someone is between my legs, what do I do? Right.
Yeah.
So those are things that are important to know. But more importantly than that is how not to be in that situation in the first place. There's really good things about physically training in that way. While you're waiting to take this course or go take your local jiu-jitsu thing, keep your body in good shape. If you can't run away, then you're going to be in trouble. So be physically able to do things. Don't handicap yourself by not moving your body every day and not taking care of yourself in that way, because I think that's half the battle, being able to keep your energy for a situation like that could come up.
Oh,
so keep your body limber.
Yeah.
I think yoga is probably the best thing for jiu-jitsu, honestly.
Yeah.
Like we joke and we say jiu-jitsu is forced yoga because of the ways we have to like
get in these positions.
Yes, get in these really not like really.
It's like stressful yoga.
Could be.
But it's good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. because we did a lot of poses and things that's like, oh, this is a yoga pose. And then we would go from there.
Yeah.
Like I think we did bridge, like in one of those poses where we're on the back and like in a strangle or something. And then you use your hips and your glutes to lift, you know, and go into a bridge. And then, so yeah, that's true. It is. That's true. Go yoga.
Yeah. Go yoga.
I love yoga. And that's a good concept I didn't think about either, is like just keeping yourself healthy. And so if you are doing workouts and like you're getting strong, then that is a step right there.
Yes,
that's good.
Absolutely. Take care of your body. Number one.
So you're more prepared than you think you are, really. Like it's kind of something that comes to mind, you know, like you're doing a good job. Like don't, because sometimes maybe I might think like, oh, like I haven't taken self-defense classes, so I just don't know.
Nothing.
You know, I know nothing. Like I'll be helpless.
Right. If there's a takeaway today that I could give you is, number one, take care of your body. Number two, like you said, you briefly mentioned it, that you have the ability to scream, but sometimes when adrenaline's pumping, you can't scream. You need, and maybe you're frozen. And offer up a prayer and say, please unfreeze me so that I can make noise and get away. If like you said, if a perpetrator is telling you be quiet or I'll kill you, don't believe him. I tell my kids, I'd rather you die than not scream and give me a chance to get to you. You know, because I can rush you to the hospital if he actually does it, but I don't think he's gonna run away, or he or she, whatever. Before they can do something too, they're too scared as well. They don't want to get caught. So scream, bite, claw, whatever it takes to get away. Don't do what they say ever. And I'd rather die than go through an experience that could, you know, I mean, I don't know. That's me. There's others who have wonderful survival stories.
And that's me, because I was 7 when, you know, a man came through the window. He was like 21 years old or something. And he did threaten me, like, I have a knife, don't scream, you know. And for me, like, it did create that response where you're like, okay, you just kind of freeze. Like, that's what happened for me, that sympathetic response. And so it was like, okay, I'm just going to do what he says then, you know. And so he was able to assault me and things like that. And then he did leave when he heard like the dog coming up the stairs and everything. And then I had to go and like tell my parents, there was a man in my room last night. And it was like, what's going on? And, you know, and it was like, almost like I felt guilty, you know, because I had to bring this bad news to my parents. And, you know, so it was hard as a 7-year-old to like process everything. And of course, I did do counseling and things like that, which is really important. And I think that's why yoga is so important for me now, because it's like I'm able to kind of, because childhood trauma can stay with us for so long, that when I started doing yoga, I was like, oh, this feels so good, just to like release all the things that maybe I'm storing in my body that like I haven't even processed yet, you know. And so that's what yoga has been for me, and I'm able to like express and like talk about the experience more. And like I had never really talked about the experience past like maybe talking to the counselors and things when I was little. So being able to just talk about the experience without getting like, whoa, freezing and everything, like that's a huge thing. And so it can be, it can be a good story. It's like part of who I am now. And sometimes, you know, you think, oh, I wish that never happened and things, but it's like, it can be like our weaknesses and our, you know, experiences, our scars, like they can become our strengths, because we're able to then maybe help someone else. And so that's kind of why I'm like, oh, I want to help other people. I want to share, you know, maybe we can prevent things from happening, or we can help people who have gone through those things. So yes, if it can be prevented, that's ideal. But sometimes you know, bad things can't be prevented. But I love having like that confidence, being able to express yourself, like use your voice. All of that is like, I think, a universal truth, you know.
What I like to do, I've done with my kids, as I did with you guys, is we practice screaming Like we practice those kinds of things. It's okay. Like if you're in a situation, if someone's sitting on you, I want you to scream. I want you to claw, bite.
Yeah.
And so practice what that sounds like coming from you. Like how big can I make my voice? You know? It's a game now, but it could be something that saves your life a little later. Let's practice screaming.
Yeah. My kids are very good at that.
Yes.
They scream a lot.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, no screaming and things like that because it makes my life easier. But to think about what you're saying, it's like, okay.
In a situation where you say, this is okay right now. Not
yeah.
And another thing, too, like we practice this in the self-defense courses, you want to know what someone else's weight feels on you.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel, and I know other women did when we were on, like, let's say I was straddling you so that you could do a move that I taught you. Did you feel like tense and claustrophobic and like, get off of me? You know?
It's like, oh, this is uncomfortable.
This is weird.
And then you get used to it though, which was cool. It's like, okay, you're used to it, and then you're able to go into the moves without being like, oh, this is
yeah, that's where the confidence comes into as well, because you've already done it before.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I felt a man's weight on me before, like who's trying to choke me out and hurt me.
Yeah.
He's trying to get the tap. And so I know what this feels like. I can calm down. There's even times where there's this huge guy who's literally on top of me. And so I've had that point where like, oh my gosh, like I'm freaking out inside. And then I'm like, this is a great time to breathe. Like, just breathe. Like, it's gonna be fine. He can't do anything to you now because he's trying to keep you from wiggling, but I'm wiggling the crap out, just trying to get him to move. Eventually I can wiggle myself out, but it's hard to be in those situations. But the more you're in them practicing, the more confident you come out being like, okay, cool. Like, I still want to choke someone out. It's fine. Like, you get past the anxiety because you've already been there. So you can think past and go to the next step of getting away. Right.
And it's kind of like that concept of when you're outside of your comfort zone is where you grow. And so you're like, okay, this is outside my comfort zone, but okay, how am I going to grow from here? Like, how am I going to get out of this or whatever it is? So I love that you can find those like universal truths in everything, even in self-defense. And so I love that. I love all those things, those little nuggets that I learned, and I want to continue learning. And you're very good and you're so strong. It was like, okay, like let's be like Anna and be strong no matter like what your size is. And also something, I forgot to mention was that it doesn't matter how strong you are. And you emphasize so much that it's not about like trying to use your muscles or your strength. It's about trying to use the leverage. And so I was like, oh
yes, absolutely. Leverage is so important. Once you figure out how to do that, you just kind of open a window and you're like, oh, cool, I can do more stuff now. Or you're not trying to strong arm someone who's way stronger than you.
I love that. I was like practicing a little bit with my husband too. I'd be like, hey, grab me here, and then I would just like get out with the technique and the leverage, and he's like, oh, okay, like he's like pretty impressed. I was like, so it's fun. Awesome. I love it. Thanks so much for first off, like letting me teach yoga at your little studio at your house, and then teaching us self-defense, and then letting me talk about self-defense with you and kind of get those little pearls of wisdom from you that you have. Do you have any last things to say or any concluding remarks?
I don't feel like you need to join your jitsu gym right away. Don't feel like you're not enough. You are, like we talked about, the first step is get yourself healthy, get yourself confident in that way. And then if you feel like you need to take that self-defense course, do that as step 3. But step 2 is definitely practicing knowing what your boundaries are, and like practicing what to say when people cross those boundaries. So take care of yourself, number 1, practice boundaries, number 2, and number 3, whatever that last one I said. Join your jiu-jitsu gym. I I love
Just baby
jujitsu.
steps.
I'm sure there's other stuff, but I haven't tried them yet. But jujitsu is kind of wonderful. It has like judo in it. It's got wrestling in it. So there's a lot of cool things about it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much, Anna. You're an amazing person, and you're an amazing self-defense teacher, and what would it be called, like a jujitsu?
Yeah, it's a jujitsu
practitioner of.
Sure, yeah. I'm a jujitsu fighter. That sounds fun.
Fighter.
Yeah.
So I hope that people learned a lot, because I learned a lot too. So thank you, Anna. Thank you for listening. I hope you learned a little bit more about self-defense and you feel a little more prepared even without taking classes. But if you feel inspired to take classes, I encourage you to do so. If you also feel inspired to find out more about what I teach as a yoga teacher and sound healer, then check out my website, www.yogawithserena.godaddysites.com. Sign up for my newsletter, follow me on Instagram at Yoga with Serena Podcast, and I hope to talk to you soon.